It's poetry in motion every time it touch your lips. No, I ain't in a rush right now, we can take it slow. Tell me what we talking about, let your feelings flow. Get closer to me, honey, ooh, you smell so sweet. A lion in the jungle, baby, we about to feast. Good Lord. Ain't nobody do it better, kinda slip into your groove. Ain't no inhibition, girl, my mission is to make your body trip until you ooh. Baby, tell me what to do, girl, there ain't no rules. I'm about to act a fool. How would you like it if I laid you down? Lay your body down. Said how would you like it if I made your body amazing? Ooh, I sound.
Still rough and told, seeking
about sex.
Yo, 14, you got another one.
Put strong in the barrel, take 2 hits of this and a nigga be out of his mind. Lot of these niggas transformed on me, but I'm still in my optimist prime. I don't skateboard much no more, but I still be all on my grind. Brand new rollie, I don't even wear much, cause bitch be wasting my time. It's the return of the man. Niggas be sending them shots at me, you know we sending them back. Spinning your bin with a man. It's the return of the man. Bitches be hitting my line all day, and I'm never hitting them back. It's the return of the man. Ain't fuck with me when I was down, now they say I'm up and they wanna come round. I left them niggas to fend for theyself, like PLP, hold it down. When I had started with all of this music, they ain't one hit, they told me right now. It be the same host that sat down, one right phone calling me Mr. Right Now. To keep it 100, these niggas ain't really need bitches, about fingers they body. These niggas, they only be tough on the molly, and I just got bitches thinking they somebody. These niggas see my wig and they try to ride it. I made me a song and they made me a profit, but you niggas broke. Put strong in the barrel, take 2 hits of this and a nigga be out of his mind. Lot of these niggas transformed on me, but I'm still in my optimist prime. I don't skateboard much no more, but I still be all on my grind. Brand new rollie, I don't even wear much, cause bitch be wasting my time. It's the return of the man. Niggas be sending them shots at me, you know we sending them back. Spinning your bin with a man. It's the return of the man. Bitches be hitting my line all day, and I'm never hitting them back. It's the return of the man. People, they change like Decepticon, that's why I'm better off standing myself. I'ma keep making money off all of this music, I'm building my fan generational wealth. Niggas bumping that brand new smoking, your shit hella dusty, your album is still on the shelf. Interviewer had asked me who do I owe thanks to, I told him God and then myself. Niggas don't know all the struggles I've been through to get me right here where I'm at. Yeah, I know that my city be known for the murder, but I'm trying to put out talents on the map. Tell my little brother that we would make it, you gotta be patient. Now take a look at where we at, and them niggas still broke. Put strong in the barrel, take 2 hits of this and a nigga be out of his mind. Lot of these niggas transformed on me, but I'm still in my optimist prime. I don't skateboard much no more, but I still be all on my grind. Brand new rollie, I don't even wear much, cause bitch be wasting my time. It's the return of the man. Niggas be sending them shots at me, you know we sending them back. Spinning your bin with a man. It's the return of the man. Bitches be hitting my line all day, and I'm never hitting them back. It's the return of the man.
Yo, 14, you got another one.
Shawty got a fat ass and the thighs match. Ride around with me, getting her off contact. Her mama rich, her daddy from the projects. But she a little bougie, Miss Ratchet.
Everything husky.
Good morning, it's another day, my friend. But soon the sunshine turns to moonlight, life goes It takes some time to say goodnight. You close your eyes to dream next thing tomorrow's here.
It's a brand new day, never hold on to hate. Cause you was placed here to be great. Please take your place. All queens got a seat at my table. Cause without y'all, then the man ain't able. Melanated queen, connected to the universe. And so I gotta thank my mom for my birth. If hate is the curse, then love is the remedy. So I send you love no matter creed or identity. Until infinity, look at you like you kin to me. Even when we disagree, yo, you still kin to me. In other words, I can't bring you no trouble, can't bring you no beef, don't wanna see you deceased. Now if I'm coming at you, I'm coming with a business plan. Cause every day I'm on some, yo, let's get this money, man. Yeah, and that's my real plans. I rest my head at night, I wake up, I got another plan.
Good morning, it's another day, my friend. But soon the sunshine turns to moonlight, life goes It takes some time to say goodnight. You close your eyes to dream next thing tomorrow's here again.
It's a lot of high rappers tell me why we don't get money together, but we'll kill each other over whatever. Running down the freeway, we gonna own down. If Black Lives Matter, why we gonna own down? That's why they laugh and they think that we clowns. They hear what we say, but see how we get down. We gotta change that now, right now to be exact. Cause hurting that man's moms is not where it's at now. Old school, new school need to learn, yo. They put us in groups so they can make more dough. The young versus the old versus the young. Black versus white, you see the pattern, right? No unity, keep them all on some gutter-ish. This way they don't prosper and get rich. Yo, can't you see it's a trick? Just open your third eye and you'll see the full view of it. Now yo, what if the powers that be know that the real power lies within the people? That's us. And what if they using things like crayon colors, black and white, to separate the people? Hey yo, you gotta wake up. Don't let them fool y'all. Spread love.
Good morning, it's another day, my friend. But soon the sunshine turns to moonlight, life goes It takes some time to say goodnight. You close your eyes to dream next thing tomorrow's. Good morning, it's another day, my friend. But soon the sunshine turns to moonlight, life goes It takes some time to say goodnight. You close your eyes to dream next thing tomorrow's here again. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning.
Since everything starts with self, let me hold this mirror up and
I did all that for nothing. All right, hold on a second. Can y'all hear me now? We should be good. Let's see. Let me double check on my side. Yeah, there we go. Oh my God. I did that whole thing. Now we got to start the intro over. Here we go. Welcome, y'all. Welcome back to another YouTube live stream. Oh man. We're in here. Y'all know who it is. ClassE Beats, ClassEbeats.com. We got some breaking news for y'all. We've got the full, official, unredacted transcripts from the ex parte meeting that took place on June 10th. We're going to review it here in a second. Shout out to Mixed Chick Samantha for letting me know I was still muted. Wow, that's embarrassing. Let me shout out everybody who's in here. We got the new timer, legendary lady. I was over here talking to myself. RGB Shorts is in the building as well. Said, dang. Mixed Chick Samantha says, hey. She also had my back. Easy is in the building. Y'all can hear now. Okay, we're good. We're good. Appreciate y'all letting me know. All right, we're gonna get into it because we have a lot to cover today, and we're gonna spend the entire live stream reviewing and going over these transcripts that we got. All right, so let me give a couple of announcements and then we'll go ahead and get into it. First of all, y'all know we've got our new show today at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're an artist that wants to get their music reviewed and critiqued, also, if you make music in BandLab and you want an opportunity to get some of your songs mixed and mastered or get more in-depth critiques on your songs, you can tap into our live review show today at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be live here and the replay will be available over on the BandLab Engineer YouTube channel. All right, so y'all go check it out. It's going to be a good time. Also, tomorrow we have the season finale of Song of the Night Live. Season 8 is tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Y'all don't want to miss out. It's going to be a good time. We're going to finish the season with a tournament featuring 14 amazing artists, and you guys will still get an opportunity to win even if you didn't make it into the tournament. And we're kicking off the show with the Versus Challenge as well. Excuse me. So make sure y'all tap into that tomorrow. It's going to be a great time. And of course, we'll be back here tomorrow as well. All right. If y'all are ready, we're going to go ahead and get to it. I don't want to waste any more time because there is a lot to get into here. All right. So before we do that, let me see if anybody had any more questions or any thoughts. Easy said, should I keep my day job or keep grinding, y'all? Shout out to Easy. I think you should do both. I mentioned this in the chat, man. Do both. Just get the money. I know when I was starting in music, I was working full-time. I was working a couple of full-time jobs actually. And then I was doing the music thing on the side or as much as I could in the spare time. I think if you prioritize and budget your time well, you'd be surprised at how much you can get done. So work your full-time job and use that to fuel or support your music career or whatever you're wanting to do with music. That's what I did. Worked out for me, and a lot of successful artists and producers and people in the music industry, if you talk to them, a lot of them have similar journeys. So something to think about, man. You can make it happen. All right. Great question though. Shout out to you. All right. If y'all are ready, I don't see any more questions. Let's go ahead and get into it. Oh, I know why. Because I didn't share. I forgot to share the live stream. Oh my gosh. I'm over here slacking, y'all. So give me 1 second. Let me share this with everybody and let them know we're live. And then we should get a few more people in here. Let me see. Got that one. And then we're going to go over to Instagram and share it. Let me turn this music back on. Let me see. And we're going to tell everybody on IG and then we'll get into it. All right, there we go. I got him. All right, I got him. We sent that out. We should be good. All right, let's go ahead and get into it, y'all. This is going to be crazy. This is going to be crazy. So first, let me start with this. Here we go. I want to make sure we're all good. Everybody could see. Make sure y'all can hear me. Turn down the music in the background. And we're zoomed in enough. Oh yeah, we're ready to go. All right, y'all. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. We have officially been able to acquire the full unredacted transcript from the secret ex parte meeting that took place on June 10th. All right, so now, given a little bit of background, you have Yak Goddick's attorney, Mr. Weinstein. He went to the Supreme Court and said, hey, Supreme Court, I'm trying to get Judge Glanville off of this case, and we want to get the full transcripts from everything that went on in the secret ex parte meeting. Supreme Court said, hey, we understand, Mr. Weinstein, but you have to go through the proper channels of getting everything done. All right, so we're going to deny your motion, and you got to go back and start over. So Mr. Weinstein, he went back, and very quickly, actually this past Friday, which is the day after he got the reply or the response from the Supreme Court, he filed another motion and sent that to the Superior Court like he was supposed to initially. It got assigned to another judge, and we're still waiting to hear back from Judge Belinda on what she's going to decide to do when it comes to Judge Glanville's position in this case. Now, since that all happened, we were able to get and acquire the official full transcript from the secret ex parte meeting that took place between Lil Woody, Caleb Bumpkus, who we've talked about before, the judge, Miss Love. You've got ADA Hilton was in that meeting too, along with several other people. And if you remember, Brian Steele was very upset about what happened and that he wasn't allowed to be, or the defense wasn't allowed to be in that meeting. And this is what started this whole situation in the first place. So now we're actually getting to see everything that took place in this meeting here in the transcript. So we're going to go through it. We're going to break it down. We'll point out anything here that looks interesting and may be an issue. But I want to remind you all at the beginning, the whole issue we had with this meeting wasn't really what was said in the meeting, although there are some things that were said in this meeting that were interesting and definitely foul in my opinion. But the fact that the meeting took place, period, with a sworn witness and the defense wasn't there is the biggest problem overall. So I think this is just going to support and play into more what the defense is trying to show when it comes to Judge Glanville and just his conduct throughout this entire case. And we're going to look at it here. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. I don't know about y'all, but I'm excited about seeing what was said in here, because if what they were saying is true in some of these affidavits, is crazy. All right, here we go. The ex parte hearing began at 9:10 a.m. Present in chambers were Judge Glanville, Assistant District Attorney Adrian Love, and Attorney Caleb Bumpkus, court reporter Christina Weaver, and investigators Antonia Long and Rasheed Hamilton. Court reporter: okay, I'm ready whenever you are. She's ready to record. All right, Miss Love says, thank you. The concern that we have to bring to the court's attention as the state was twofold. One, we wanted to have the opportunity to impress upon Mr. Copeland with representation present that he faces, and we wanted to give him an opportunity to ask whatever questions he wanted to ask before he was we had to pull him in the courtroom when the jury came out. The second concern that I have is I wanted to bring to the court's attention, in line with the concern that I expressed on the record on Friday. I don't know what advice counsel may have offered or may be offering that in their right, and that is their right and their business. As it relates to testifying, however, I do not believe that criminal exposure is a concern that is which interest is being spoken about and protected. Mr. Melnick relayed to Ms. Hilton on Friday that he had never heard of the statute 245507. And on Friday, he sent an email. I don't know if he intentionally copied Mr. Steele or Mr. Shart? Interesting. I don't know if he unintentionally put my name on it, but he sent the email to Mr. Steele and Mr. Shart with me and Simone copied, where he said, this is a communication that I have received from Miss Love regarding Mr. Copeland. My response was, whose interests are you protecting? Yours or Mr. Steele's? Whose clients? Which clients are you protecting? Okay, so she's basically accusing him of not being in Lil Woody's best interest. Whose client? Yours or Mr. Steele's or Mr. Shart's? He wrote back and said, you're going to get him killed. Oh my God. Now, when she's talking about she's talking about Lil Woody's lawyer, Mr. Melnick. Okay, so keep that in mind. He wrote back and said, you're going to get him killed. You made him blank. Okay, so some of this is still blanked out. You're making him a target. So either the reporter didn't catch it or this was removed. This is interesting. He said, you made him blank. You are making him a target. He says, F you. Is what he wrote in the email. Dang. So he was upset about them even trying to bring Woody on the stand, and we'll go through a couple other things of why this would have been an issue later on too. So given that his concern is that by testifying, at least the one that he conveyed to me in writing is not blank his concern, has nothing to do with exposure from the state. And if his concern, and this is Judge Glanville here, it says the court, his being whose concern? Mr. Melnick. If the interest that he is protecting is Mr. Copeland's freedom, he did not convey it by asking us what exposure does he face in testifying. In fact, if he's concerned that testifying will get Mr. Copeland killed and he is not communicating with us, but he did communicate with you. He's communicating with counsel for defendants. It would seem that he knows a thing or something that we don't know. Okay, so they must be talking about, she's either talking about him pleading the fifth, or I don't know what she's talking about. But he has been communicating with him. So that's another weird statement from Miss Love, but we'll keep it moving. Additionally, and I will let Miss Bumpus tell you, he said if Mr. Copeland testifies, he's no longer representing Mr. Copeland, which is strange because if your interest is your client, then it would seem you want to be there for him while he is testifying. Interesting. The court says, or Judge Glanville says, well, he is on vacation this week. Ms. Love said, I understand. That is why he has Miss Bumpus here. And he said what he has said. I still don't get her point. And as I was reading the statute, the thing that is blank, and I was reading the statute about this particular situation, and I was reading our rules, our ethics rules, rules of conduct for attorneys. And it is clear that if an attorney blank, there are two things that were happening. One, Mr. Melnick has told me that he wasn't Mr. Copeland's lawyer. Mr. Copeland had told Miss Hilton that Mr. Melnick wasn't representing him. And then rather than Mr. Copeland reaching out to Mr. Melnick apparently was in communication with Mr. Steele and Mr. Shart and this whole thing is, she's talking in a circle here. This is crazy. Mr. Melnick apparently was in communication with Mr. Steele and Mr. Shart, and Mr. Melnick reached out to Lil Woody and injected himself in these proceedings. But he hadn't testified. So wasn't he still his lawyer? Because she said that he wasn't going to be Lil Woody's lawyer if he testified. If that's true, then he was still his lawyer. So I don't understand how he's injecting himself into the proceedings if Lil Woody pleaded the fifth and said he wasn't going to testify. That's strange. What we are discussing was in no way a matter that Mr. Melnick representing Lil Woody on, and that is where we are not allowed to speak with a person when they are represented by counsel. Mr. Melnick could not have been representing Lil Woody on anything we were talking about because we were talking about this case and this trial. What? All that aside, we would like the opportunity for the court to address Lil Woody and Lil Woody's stand-in counsel. Present Miss Bumpus is looking at me like I'm listening, says Miss Bumpus. Miss Love says, with his stand-in counsel present to allow Miss Bumpus an opportunity to explain to Lil Woody everything that I've just said. Her concern outside was what is the longest he can stay in jail. What I relate to her is the statute says until he purges himself, I'm guessing, by testifying, says the judge, his contempt by testifying. Judge says, yeah, 507 is a little bit different. So, I mean, so until the end of this, said Miss Bumpus. So she's asking, he's going to have to stay in jail until the end of this. Judge Glanville says he can be here until the end of the trial. Wow. So this is true. Everything that Lil Woody was saying is true about him essentially being threatened that he would have to stay in jail until the end of the trial. And I think this gets crazier too. Judge Glanville says he can be here until the end of the trial. Ms. Bumpus says, that is what I said. To the end of the trial is the longest. Ms. Love said, no, it's not the longest. Even after a grand jury, if a person subpoenaed to testify before the grand jury, and even after the grand jury has what it is convened, has left, that person can stay in until the person purges themselves of contempt by testifying. What? The statute literally says that. Ms. Bumpus says, yeah, it doesn't make sense to her either. She says, well, I'm going to look it up because it was my understanding that it was until the end of the trial. Ms. Love says, no, here it is, literally the words of the statute. And Judge Glanville says he could be in there a while. Let's put it that way. Either way, and Ms. Bumpus says, I just want to be able to give him something. And then Judge Glanville says, I know. It's kind of the statute says, you know, that you purge, but I can't keep him there indefinitely. I've got to kind of blank. And then Ms. Bumpus says, right, that's all I want to know. So basically, what Judge Glanville is saying here is what he said before, is what we talked about before. He's saying that he can get out. He just has to give us the information that we want, which is kind of the same thing that he was saying about Brian Steele when he was trying to find out who leaked the information about the meeting. Ms. Bumpus said, right, that's all I wanted to know. Judge Glanville says, you know, the whole thing is that he has the keys to his own freedom. Yep, we just talked about that. And that freedom is if he gives his testimony, then he's purged it. Right, exactly. Ms. Bumpus says, right. Ms. Love says, and you know, whatever that testimony is, we know what we believe it to be, but you know, we don't know what it is. Jesus, man. We can't talk about it. We don't know. You know, I mean, we don't know what he's going to say. We have an idea. We know what he's told us. Yeah, says Ms. Bumpus. And poor Ms. Bumpus, man, she just got thrown into the lion's den. And it's clear that they were trying to take advantage of this opportunity. Judge Glanville included in that, and push Little Woody the way they wanted to towards their advantage. That's a shame, man. Ms. Love said, and our concern is that I know the court said essentially you intimated that you blank that Mr. Melnick probably told him essentially, you should testify. They are not going to. They can't do anything with your testimony. But what we overheard being said was they're going to hammer you as if we were going to expose Lil Woody to blank. You heard that? Says Ms. Bumpus. Ms. Love says, yes, yeah, Mr. Melnick told Little Woody we're going to hammer him. Judge Glanville says, now to be fair, and I think Ms. Bumpus as an advocate or anybody has got to tell him he's going to face some pretty significant cross-examination, which is true. Ms. Bumpus says, yeah, I think that's what he meant. Judge Glanville says, I mean, he's got to about 10. I don't know what this means here. Ms. Love says, so he meant the defense is going to hammer him? Ms. Bumpus said, no, just in general, he's going to be hammered, I guess. It's not going to be hey, da. Ms. Love, he knew that. He had already been expressing that. Judge Glanville says, but I mean, I think that if he's concerned about that, well, you know, but it's all in the message and packaging in terms of, I think Lil Woody is, you know, a savvy person. But, you know, he's certainly going to be subject to a thorough and sifting cross-examination. Miss Love says, and the other thing is that blank. Can I just say something in Attorney Melnick's defense in response, says Miss Bumpus, just for the record? Miss Love says yes. Miss Bumpus says there's a reason that he doesn't want to move forward with representation. What I have been told, if he decides to testify, is that if he doesn't feel like he can, he doesn't know what was said outside of his presence. So he doesn't feel like he can adequately represent him or counsel him because he doesn't know what was told to the state when he wasn't there. Basically, Mr. Melnick's talking about this ex parte meeting, right? He's saying, hey, I wasn't here. I told you guys I was going on vacation. You didn't have to bring Lil Woody in at this point. You could have waited till I got back. I had this trip planned. I told you well in advance. And now I don't want to represent him if he's over there talking on the stand and I have to go through and figure out what all he said and what all you guys asked him, which I think is fair. Miss Love says, but the thing is, the only thing that he should be concerned about is the criminal exposure or the exposure that Lil Woody has criminally, and there is nothing. There literally is nothing. The statute is quite clear that we can do to him about the only thing that would put him in harm's way is a lie and a refusal to testify after being ordered to do so by the court. And by a lie, we don't mean like, oh, I think you're lying. You know, it would have to be, you know, something obvious, you know, because we can always impeach. But if he literally purges himself, that's something different. We can't help that. We can't control that. We would only say, tell the truth. I don't care how bad it is, just tell the truth. So he could admit that he killed Big Nut. He could say, I was the one who did it and throw this whole case off. Well, we're going to get into that in a second. So, you know, like he says, I didn't go down to the police station. Judge Glanville says, and I think part of the challenge, Miss Bumpus, may be that you need to assure him, look, I'm going to be there. And if you think that they're asking you a question, they being the state or the defense is asking you a question that's going to bring out other crimes, that you're going to be blank. He's going to be able to look at you and say, can I have a chance to talk with you? Miss Love said, that's exactly right. And Miss Bumpus says, see? And Miss Love says, see, but that's just it. Miss Bumpus says, no, he's not. Miss Love says, hold on. That's just it, Judge. The problem is that there's been an assertion that people are representing, and I'm not talking about you. Miss Bumpus says, yeah. Miss Love says there's been an assertion that people are representing his blank, that their biggest concern is his best interest. And then they are just not here. Let me try that again. There's been an assertion that people are representing his blank something. Okay, so I was wrong about this. This is not the unredacted version. This is still redacted. So I don't know when we're going to get the the official version. But it says there's been an assertion that people are representing his blank, that their biggest concern is his best interest. And then they are just not here. And Miss Bumpus is saying she's not in a position to do that. Miss Bumpus says, no, I'm just saying I'm not in a position. I'm not saying I'm not in a position. I'm saying that the agreement between Lil Woody and Melnick, who I'm standing in for, is that if he chooses to testify, I'm to get him to sign this paper that says that then discharges Melnick as his representation. That's their agreement. I can't do nothing about that. Miss Love says that sounds weird. That does not sound like something in Lil Woody's best interest. So basically, it sounds like Miss Love is just trying to push so that he has some type of representation so they can keep this thing going, which that seems weird to me. And he wasn't going to advise Lil Woody to testify, it seems like. Wow. And Uno in the chat says, according to the judge, this is the unredacted version of this. Yeah.
Stop the cap.
Well, this is the unredacted version. Then I guess the reporter just missed some things. So we'll take it for what it is. Let's see. Miss Bumpus says, well, he said he doesn't know what was said. And Miss Love says it doesn't matter what was said. Miss Bumpus says, right. Miss Love also says it doesn't matter. And he didn't ask us. He didn't even inquire. What have you all talked about? He has been talking to Brian Steele and Max Sharts. That's it. He is not talking to us. And in fact, when Little Woody asked to speak with us, Mr. Melnick barges in and gets between Mrs. Hilton and Little Woody and literally keeps us from talking to him before he gets called to the stand. And that's troubling. It sounds like he's protecting his client. Miss Bumpus said, well, I think what happened was, and I say this because I previously represented Little Woody previously on his other staff. So I would know when this just what I think happened. I think how Attorney Melnick came involved was his representation of other people. I'm guessing because he took my place. Little Woody fired me and hired Melnick. And then this came about. And I think so at the beginning, Melnick was representing him. And then Miss Love says in his criminal matter that he had, but that's resolved. Right. And it's resolved because they gave him immunity, I'm assuming. Miss Bumpus says, excuse me, y'all, bear with me here. Miss Bumpus says, let's see, in the criminal, but that's resolved. Miss Bumpus says, but when this case started, Melnick called me and told me that he was representing him as a witness at the beginning. I can assert that. Miss Love says Melnick has never in life something. Miss Bumpus says this is 2 years ago. Okay, so they're talking about a different case. Miss Love says Melnick did something. As a matter of fact, less than 2 years ago, when Lil Woody was sitting in jail for something else he had done, Melnick said, I don't represent him. He told me I don't represent him, and people were in the room. He was on speaker. He told me he didn't represent him. Now he ultimately did come about to represent him. What is she going on about? But when they were trying to get, I guess, something, and Miss Bumpus says something, yeah. Miss Love says, Lil Woody was like, he's not my lawyer. I don't have a lawyer. He's not my lawyer. And then Miss Bumpus says, are you talking about recently? Yeah, I'm confused too, Kayla. So I'm not even in the room. And I'm like, what is going on here? And Miss Love says, so recently Lil Woody said that Melnick was not his lawyer. Miss Bumpus said, right. Miss Love said, when Lil Woody was in jail, Melnick told me he wasn't his lawyer. But our understanding was that Melnick was his lawyer for those criminal charges. But I thought she said earlier that he wasn't going to represent him if he testified. So I'm confused on what she's talking about. And so the person that came in and argued, or at least stood in for him on his bond and then on his subsequent plea was Melnick. But I don't know whose he would be. I don't know whose interest he would be representing when he's not talking to us about what we've spoken to Lil Woody about. He could ask us and we could tell him, so I don't know why he would withdraw his representation of him. If his interest is Lil Woody, then why would you pull it out? Judge Glanville said that doesn't make sense. Miss Love says at the point where he could face the most peril, if that is his concern, if his concern is, I don't know what they talked about, so I don't know what. And Judge Glanville says, and I thought Miss Hilton had a list of questions for Lil Woody anyway. Miss Love says she did. And the court says, well, how come y'all can't something? And Miss Love says he didn't ask to see those. He didn't something. And not only that, Judge Glanville says, well, can't you all agree that, can't you all share that with Miss Bumpus? Miss Love says, well, Miss Hilton has already shared it with Lil Woody. And we certainly will share it, generally speaking. So when was Miss Hilton talking with Lil Woody? Because this part doesn't seem right either. She said she already shared the questions with Lil Woody. How is she in contact with him? Interesting. Miss Bumpus says, can I read the email that Melnick sent me? Maybe it was before he was sworn in, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if this will help you understand what he's saying. It says, hey, Kayla, I was able to see Lil Woody today. He went on Saturday and tried to talk to him before his flight. But I have talked to his family. So at first, Lil Woody was going to testify, but has now decided to take the fifth. He may change his mind on Monday. If he does, then he's agreed to discharge me as his attorney. Okay, so he said this over and over. This isn't out of bad feelings, but I was not present when he met with the DA's office, so I can't really help him with his testimony. And then he gave me the discharge and told me that if he decides to testify, then he's to sign this. Okay, so this is the email that Melnick sent to Kayla Bumpus, all right? And then Miss Love says, and that's just it. It's like you never know what somebody is going to ask. And he's concerned about putting him in legal jeopardy. Then he blank, it would seem like he would remain and allow Lil Woody to access counsel when Lil Woody is concerned that he's just about to walk into an arena that puts him in legal jeopardy. Miss Bumpus says you can't switch how he gets called. Basically telling them y'all just can't wait until he gets back. And Miss Love says, see, that's not in Lil Woody's best interest. That is the defendant's best interest. When you say switch in how he gets called, what does that have to do with anything? Miss Bumpus says, I don't know. Maybe he's saying he can't do it because he can't get his refundable ticket. Miss Love says, that is not what he said in that email to you. And that is not what he relayed to the court. And his concerns have nothing to do with something. The court says he was very much something. Miss Bumpus says, I tried to go back and watch as much as I could. The court says, telling me what he was something, that he was on vacation. And I said, well, you inserted yourself in this. I said, really, you need to come on Monday. Excuse me, y'all. And then Miss Love says, so he can't force Lil Woody to discharge him because Lil Woody decides to testify. Judge Glanville says, I think you are in until it's done. I mean, you know, and Kayla's like, wait, she said, who, me? She said, what you mean? What? Judge Glanville said, yeah, you. I mean, that's just, if he testifies, you've got to kind of represent him, is probably what he said. Miss Love says, and frankly, Your Honor, I know that if a person faces criminal contempt, they are entitled to representation if they want it. This being a civil contempt matter, Judge Glanville says, not necessarily. Anybody who's facing contempt can get canceled. I mean, you know, not anybody, but Miss Kayla says, whoa, I can't stay. How long is this going to take? And excuse me, I'm sorry, y'all. Miss Love says, it might take some days. And Kayla said, Miss Love says, and I see that's just it. I think Miss Bumpus is put in a precarious position, which is true. She's not the one that stood up and injected herself into this. They reached out to her and she did him a favor, which is true. But ultimately, it seems as if Mr. Melnick is stalling and attempting to delay and hamper and hinder our proceedings. And that is a problem because that has nothing to do with the best interest of Lil Woody. And that has nothing to do with Lil Woody's exposure if he testifies. Just to answer the question about what he is exposed to, the statute is very, very clear. It literally says that no testimony or any evidence required under the court's order or any information directly or indirectly derived from such testimony or evidence shall be used against the person in any proceeding or prosecution for a crime or offense concerning, which he testifies or produces evidence under the court order. That is saying, even if he got on the stand and said blank. All right. So the court says he started talking about an unrelated crime, which is what the biggest thing I think he's probably thinking about is that, yeah, there's a lot of stuff they could ask me about, which is true. Miss Love says, right. Judge Glanville says that is not known to a lot of people, and that, you know, he could also invoke his Fifth Amendment with the advice of counsel. Excuse me. If it was something if it was some other particular crime. But Miss Love says, but even that, we wouldn't blank or even something. And Judge Glanville says, even that, he still has to testify. Miss Love says, literally, something right. The saw lays? Maybe it's the law says. Shout out to the reporter on this one, man. Judge Glanville says, yeah, I mean, anything he testifies to. Miss Love says, we do this. And Kayla says, okay. And then about the delay or stall, isn't it true or is it not true that he had a leave filed since December? Oh, wee. Okay. So not only the court is in on this, all right, but you've got Miss Love over here, I mean, acting like she doesn't know what's going on. Miss Bumpus just exposed this whole situation in this one line. She said, okay, and then about the delay or stall, isn't it true or is it not true that he had a leave filed since December? So they have known for, where are we at now? How long has Woody been on the stand? They've known for the better of 5-6 months that Melnick wasn't going to be there. And just by some circumstance, they want to bring Woody up for questioning when he's going out of town. I mean, come on, man. Jeez. What does Miss Love say? We have nothing to do with any of that. He injected himself into this. And Judge Glanville says, yeah, see, the problem is, and Miss Love says he stepped in. Judge Glanville says that's when you get involved. I don't know you have a leave. How do you not know that? Miss Love says, right, use something. The court says, and unless you filed the leave into this case, you don't have a leave for my case. Miss Love says, right. And Kayla says, okay. Come on, man. Miss Love says, and he did not. So he didn't have one. So apparently he had the leave filed, but he didn't file it with this particular case. Miss Love says, Lil Woody's been a witness and a name on this witness list since whenever. Judge Glanville. So since he said, well, I represent him. I'm like, okay, well, you don't have a leave that's filed in our case. Miss Bump says, okay. Miss Love says, so he did this to himself and he did it to you, but we have to move on. Probably she said, you know, this is just where it is. And I don't know that. And I don't know that. That's just where we are. Kayla says, so Judge, you're going to make me stay if he chooses to testify? The court says, I am, because you're his lawyer. Dang. I mean, they're punishing everybody right now. You're a stand-in lawyer at this point. Miss Bumpus says, Your Honor, I don't have a problem with that. I'm not ready. She doesn't know the case at all. Excuse me. And Miss Love says, if something, and Judge Glanville goes, there's nothing for you to do. Oh, I'm sorry. There's nothing for you to be ready about. I mean, here's the thing, which that makes sense because he hasn't really testified yet. So I guess I could see that, but it's still, I would want to know more information about the case too. I mean, here's the thing. I think the only thing you've got to kind of ask him about is, look, here's the questions the state is going to ask you. All right. Is there anything else that could hurt you that they might ask you about? And as long as you acknowledge, and as long as you have knowledge of that, then I think that you are fine, because the state's only going to get into this. Now, the reason you want to know what's going to hurt you is the defense knows more about Lil Woody than anybody else. So they are probably going to kind of something. Kayla says, what about if I say I can't do it? Then Melnick needs to come back, right? Am I going to be in trouble? Because I was only for Monday. That's what I was told. I was given specific something. Miss Love says, so basically what Kayla's saying is she was only supposed to be there to represent him about the contempt. And then if he decides to testify, then she should be good to go, right? And if he stays there, if he stays in jail, then, I mean, she's got to stay. Yeah, make sure Samantha, she said, Kayla said, huh? What? Oh my gosh. If Little Woody said, I don't know what Little Woody wants, it's his choice. Kayla says, can't he say he doesn't want Melnick? Miss Love says, he can say whatever he wants. It's his choice. Then what are we talking about? Kayla says, but the judge is saying that she has to be here for the whole case. Miss Love says, I don't think he can be forced to have representation if he doesn't want, need, or says he wants it, because we have offered. We have done everything to clear him of judicial exposure. He's not something, there is nothing he can say, something he could lie. That puts him in, you know, something. Peril. Miss Love says, yes, peril. But, you know, he can't talk about crime. He can't talk about crime that we could then prosecute him for. Judge Glanville says, that is involving this or some other place. And Miss Love says, right. Miss Bumper says, I understand, but Miss Love, and we can't use his testimony to go find evidence to prosecute him for the stuff he talks about. Basically, he is literally shielded. That's not technically true, because we talked about, you know, our community attorney here. We talked about some of the things that could happen if he were to confess to certain things, even though he has immunity. She's technically telling the truth that the state couldn't prosecute him, but federally he could be prosecuted, right? Because it said, what does she say? She says, and we can't use his testimony to go find evidence to prosecute him. You can't use his testimony, but you could still go find something and prosecute him, though. This statement's weird. So basically, he is literally shielded. You can't use his testimony, but that doesn't mean you can't go look for it. I mean, because if you say, so if I give you immunity and you say, oh yeah, I went and robbed the corner store on, you know, the corner of Martin Luther King in Maine. And that's what you say in your testimony. And you're like, oh, okay. And then someone just says, hey, you know, I just stopped by that same store and I was looking at some footage just because I had a feeling about something and I saw Lil Woody robbing the store. It's like, I mean, technically, did you use his testimony? Yeah, I guess. But can you still prosecute him for that? It seems like you would be able to. This is wild, man. Miss Love says, well, oh, here we go. So Miss Love says, and we can't use his testimony to go find evidence to prosecute him for the stuff he talks about. Basically, he is literally shielded. Miss Bumpus says, I would have to agree with you that I don't think that's the concern. Isn't that what you said? Miss Love says, well, the court said that. Miss Bumpus said, no, I'm saying that Lil Woody's not testifying. You said you don't think that his concern is criminal exposure, or you do think that he is worried about it. Judge Glanville says, do you think that he's fearful of testifying for other reasons, like for his personal safety? Miss Bumpus says, yes. Miss Love, that is what Mr. Melnick said to me in an email I can pull up. He said, Miss Bumpus says, but you don't believe that. Miss Love said, you're going to get him killed. That's what he said. He ain't going to kill him. We ain't going to kill. Miss Love said, and she's quoting Mr. Melnick. She said, you're going to get him killed. That's what he said. We ain't going to kill him is what Miss Love is saying. Miss Bumpus says, see, I don't know anything about that email. Miss Love said, we ain't going to kill him. We ain't going to kill him. I can show you the email, but we're not going to kill little Woody. She's probably getting irritated. She sounds like she's getting annoyed at this point. So who is he talking about? So what are you trying to do? The court says that is a collateral second and third order effect. All right. I see you, Glanville. He says, let's pray it doesn't happen. But, and Miss Love says, I mean, obviously he's something. Yeah, everybody's saying this is redacted. Yeah, this is some BS. And hopefully Belinda sees through this. We'll see what she says. Judge Glanville says first, he has to give testimony, though. I mean, that's what he has to do. He's got to give the testimony, whatever it is, good, bad, or indifferent, good, bad, or indifferent. Good, bad, or indifferent, I should say. Miss Love says, so we would like, with the court's permission, something. They haven't brought him over, and he was supposed to be the first one up. So I guess they went to get him. They might be over there with him now. All right. The court, is he here now? Miss Love says, I don't know. All right. Judge Glanville exited chambers at 9:33 a.m. All right. Let's take a little bit of a break. I'm going to see what y'all are saying in the chat. Shout out to everybody who stopped by. I see y'all in here, man. 6 lenses. Says, I want this trial to be over. The depth and her trial was much more entertaining. You want it to be over because it's not entertaining? Wow. All righty then. Freedom of Speech says this was definitely redacted. Samantha, mixed chick Samantha said, Kayla said, what? Huh? Tanya is up in here, says they are not having him testify for anything they can try. Everything has passed the statute of limitations, state and federal. Everything that they know of, right, Tanya? And I think that's the issue, because if he gets up there and he talks about when did they grant him immunity for? Right. Yeah, so I think that's where my mind goes. And that's probably what Lil Woody's thinking too. He's like, okay, y'all say that we're past the statute of limitations, but what if I say something else and somebody goes looking for and digging up things? Then what happens, Shout out to Sexy Smart Sweet, says definitely it's been redacted. I don't know. Tanya says correct. Mixed chick Samantha says not murder. Yeah, but I think the prosecution made it clear that they don't want Little Woody to admit to Big Nut's murder, because then that's gonna ruin the whole case. Like the RICO, if he does that, the RICO's done, which is crazy. Floyd's up in here, says good morning. Wow. All right, let me get another sip of water and we'll keep going. Thank you to everybody who's in here too. Shout out to all 180 of y'all, 180,000 of y'all. If you could, just make sure you like the video. Not only are likes free, but it does help the channel continue to grow, and it lets the algorithm know you guys are enjoying the show, and it shares it with more people. All right. Let me get a couple more good coughs in, and then we'll get back into it. And I apologize, y'all. I'm still recovering from a little bit of an illness that I had this weekend. So we're going to get there. All right, let's get back into it. So Judge Glanville exited the chambers at 9:33 a.m. All right. Miss Love says, we would like to just go into another courtroom and talk to him. Okay, so this is where it starts to get good, y'all. This is where everything takes a big left turn because Lil Woody's about to go into the room. All right. So Judge Glanville exits the chambers at 9:33. Miss Love, we would like to just go into another courtroom to talk to him, give you a chance to talk to him. She's talking to Kayla, and then give you an opportunity to explain to him. The court reporter says we're off the record. Okay, so they have a brief recess for a minute, it looks like. Judge Glanville and Mr. Chamberlain enter chambers at 9:34 a.m. Miss Love says Miss Hilton has been communicating with him. I'd like to grab her from downstairs and have her come up. Judge Glanville says, where's Lil Woody? Mr. Chamberlain says they took him upstairs to the tank in 9. Judge Glanville says, okay, can we bring him out to something? Can we something? Mr. Chamberlain says, your chambers is being used. I mean, your courtroom is being used. Judge Glanville says, let's bring him here. Oh, man. This can't be real. This cannot be real. Mr. Chamberlain says, okay. So let me see if I can get that done. Judge Glanville said, let's bring him in here. Okay, thank you. We'll bring him in here. Oh, man. So for another 30 minutes, well, 29 minutes, the proceedings stood in recess from 9:30 to 10:03 a.m. I can't. Oh, my gosh, man. Mr. Copeland enters the chambers at 10:03 a.m. at the request of Judge Glanville. Also present were Judge Glanville, Assistant District Attorney Simone Hilton, and Attorney Caleb Bumpus. Court reporter Christina Weaver, investigators Antonio Long and Rashid Hamilton, and Deputy Houston, Deputy McPherson, Sergeant Brown, and Sergeant Hall with the Fulton County Sheriff's Department. Lord have mercy. Everybody except the defense. Judge Glanville, okay. Lil Woody said, can you let him know I have a hearing problem? Oh, man. Of course, this is the first thing Lil Woody would say. You gotta love this dude, man. Can you let him know I have a hearing problem? Huh? What you mean? Miss Bumpus says, okay, he is hard of hearing. Judge Glanville says, that makes 2 of us. I got a hearing aid that's coming on the 27th of January. I mean, on the 27th of June. Oh my God. So I'll try and talk loud. If that's okay, I something. And Lil Woody said, yeah, I can read lips. All right, I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna try and get through this. Lil Woody, this guy is, oh man, this guy is amazing. He said, yeah, I can read lips. Judge Glanville says, okay, good. Lil Woody, good morning. Lil Woody says, good morning. Judge Glanville, all right. I just wanted to bring you over and let you talk with Miss Bumpus and see if there's anything that you need to ask for. You need to ask of your counsel or Mrs. Hilton or the state or the court before we bring you out this morning, because it is something we would like to hear your testimony. And that is kind of where we are at this point in time. So is there anything you want to ask? Lil Woody said, well, I want to speak to you personally, that I have never been truthful a day in my life until I just made this statement right now. Oh my God. This guy, I don't comprehend none of this stuff that's going on. Judge Glanville said, okay, well, the only thing you can give is truthful testimony. I mean, whatever you know is whatever you know. Excuse me. I mean, that's it. Miss Hilton says, and what we'll say and Lil Woody and I, we have talked about this. I'm not sure what your concerns are. What concerns that you expressed to Mr. Melnick last week. But if you are blank, if any of your concerns deal with being locked up for anything, you can't. Like, there's nothing that can happen. The feds. This isn't true. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kayla. Let's give shout out to Kayla. Shout out to Kayla. And this is what I was talking, excuse me. And this is what I was mentioning in the chat to Tanya. This is not true. And I don't know why they keep saying this. We talked to Javier M. Bailey, an attorney who's come to the channel several times and gave us some insight into some of the things that he could be held accountable for, right? So check this out. And shout out to Mixed Chick Samantha for the super chat. She said, I need you to talk like Lil Woody on his parts. Oh my gosh. I probably won't do it justice. Excuse me, especially since I could barely talk right now. But thank you for the 2-bomb over there. All right. Miss Hilton is over here lying already. She says, Miss Hilton says, and what we'll say, Lil Woody and I, we talked about this. I don't know why she was talking to a sworn witness. Hopefully this was before. I don't know. I'm not sure what your concerns are. What concerns that you expressed to Mr. Melnick? What concerns that you expressed to Mr. Melnick last week? But if you are if you are worried, probably if any of your concerns deal with being locked up for anything, you can't. Like, there's nothing that can happen. The feds or whatever. Miss Bumpus says, well, that's not true. Miss Hilton says it is true. Kayla says no. I said that's not his concern. Miss Hilton said if his concern is safety, we need to know that. Like, that's not expressed. So we don't know what the concern is so that we can try to resolve the concern. This is what I'm saying. Miss Little Woody and I have had conversations before. I understand some of his concerns is potential criminal liability. Hence why we gave you immunity. The federal statute of limitations done. The state statute of limitations done. So there is nothing, like I researched in this weekend again, both those statutes of limitations for what you and I talked about, which is 2015 or before, done. You cannot be prosecuted for anything you testify federally or statewide. Immune, period. So if that is the concern, there is none because you cannot be prosecuted. The federal statute of limitations is 5 years. So anything in 2015, 5 years would have been 2020. Anything statewide is 4 years. It would have been 2019. Finished. Next concern. What may happen in the streets? You know what we have talked about. What we can do as far as living and all of that. We had those conversations. So I'm trying to express to you, we do not want you locked up. I don't know how many times I've got to tell you that. What I've got to say to you. We don't want you sitting in DeKalb or whenever they are, whenever they got you because of this. I know you wanted to talk to me Friday before you walked into court. We weren't able to talk. If you still want to talk with me or with or without Ms. Bumpus, I'm here. But we do not want you in custody. You will not blank this order. I do not know if you kept your copy of the order, but this order says you are immune from prosecution, any of it. Literally, judge, you might want to close your ears. If you confess to a murder on the stand, if we don't have any other independent evidence outside of what you say on the stand, you are immune from prosecution for what you say in court. What? See, Simone, you talk too much. This is where she messed up the whole thing. And shout out to Tanya. She said they can find something. Yeah, little Woody's smart. He knows not to trust him. listen to what she said here. I can't believe she said this to him. I don't know if you kept a copy of the order, but this order says you are immune from prosecution. Any of it, literally. Judge, you might want to close your ears. You might want to turn that hearing aid off. If you confess to a murder on the stand, if we don't have any other independent evidence outside of what you say on the stand, you are immune from prosecution from what you say in court. Boy, this is just messed up, man. If the defense were in there, they would have killed her from saying this. I mean, listen to what she's saying. If you confess to murder on the stand, if we don't have any other independent evidence from outside, so she's basically saying you don't have full immunity. If we don't have any other independent evidence. So you can say what you want, but if I happen to walk by the corner store and we find a gun out there that has your fingerprints on it, then hey, sorry, Woody, you might go to jail for that. And little Woody's he's a smart guy. He sees right through this. This is crazy, man. This is wow. Just no wonder little Woody just switched and is giving Simone Hilton, our assistant district attorney Hilton, such trouble. Excuse me. All right, let's try and keep going, y'all. She said, so again, I don't know what was communicated to you on Friday. I have no idea. But what the state has assured you, which I have assured you in our private conversations with Mr. Long, as I'm saying in front of Ms. Bumpus, as I told you, that is what the order says. The court says, and that is direct or cross-examination. Ms. Hilton says, and that is direct or cross-examination. Judge Glanville says, so if you are worried about what the defendants may ask you because they may know your business, but if they ask you about things that you might think you might have some liability with, you can't be prosecuted for any of those. Lil Woody says, I got family members watching this trial. I don't want my nephew and them to hear the things that I may be involved in. And I think it's okay. Shout out to Woody for that. Ms. Hilton said, but I think that's a separate conversation you can have with them as an honest individual. Like, look, nephews, I've done live the life that I don't want you to live. Don't go through what I've been through. But that's not blank. That's something that you can have outside of being in jail, because that's a better conversation you can have with your nephews in person. She's definitely an attorney. But they shouldn't have to come to DeKalb County Jail because you are being held in contempt. You can have that conversation with your nephews tomorrow. Excuse me, in person. You can have that conversation with them. You can have that conversation with anybody. That's not true either. Boy, she is just lying like crazy. Like, you can't just walk around here having conversations about an... Oh, man. Simone, this is disappointing. You can have that conversation with anybody. You can go on YouTube and talk about Little Woody. It's all good, man. You know what's coming up this weekend? Why are we in jail? What are we doing? Lil Woody says, but y'all did this intentionally. That's a fact, Lil Woody. Miss Hilton said, no, we didn't. You and I had this conversation, Lil Woody, on Friday morning. Little Woody said, you knew my child's birthday was next week. Oh, he missed his child's birthday. Miss Hilton said, excuse me, y'all. Miss Hilton said, but what did I tell you? When we met with each other, I said to you something. You asked me, what is the one thing that's going to get me in jail? Didn't you ask me that? And what was my response? If you plead the fifth. And that is exactly what you did on the stand. Now, He pleaded the fifth because he didn't want to testify. But the problem was they granted him immunity, and he can't plead the fifth after you've been granted immunity. Like, that's getting something for nothing on the prosecution side. So that's great. That would be crazy for them to do. So you got to pick one or the other. You can't have immunity and plead the fifth. You can plead the fifth, and then they throw you in jail for being possession of a gun or for having someone buy a gun for you. You don't get it all, Lil Woody. Lil Woody says, but what did I tell you before I got to that point? I told you the whole time, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, he probably says. And she said, but I told you we were giving you immunity. Y'all bear with me. We're going to make it, I promise. Miss Hilton said, but I told you we were giving you immunity. Lil Woody said, and I told you I was pleading the fifth. She said, no, you didn't. And he said, I told you every day I was planning on pleading the fifth. She said, no, you didn't. And we told you something. Lil Woody said, I told you my concern. And Miss Hilton said, and we said we could give you immunity. You said your concern is what they know about you. And when you said that, I said, well, you know stuff about them. And then I said, whatever your concerns are, we can give you immunity. Lil Woody said, so I didn't tell you I lied to them to get myself out of the situation. Miss Hilton said, you said you were a liar. That's what you said. You said you were a liar. Miss Bumper says, was this recorded? Miss Hilton says, no. Nah, we were just texting. Miss Bumper says, and did he ever say that Melnick was his attorney? Miss Hilton said, no. This week, when we met you in the car on Friday, we asked you, is Mr. Melnick your attorney? You said, he is not my attorney. I haven't talked to him. This is so messed up, man. Lil Woody said, no, I never said he's not my attorney. I said I haven't talked to him. Uh-oh. Looks like ADA Hilton, she's going to get in trouble too. That's a fact. She was doing some dirty, low down, shady stuff. And that's a great question that Kayla asked here too. Was this recorded? Where was his lawyer? And Simone's like, I don't know. I mean, he said he didn't have a lawyer, whatever. God. Miss Hilton says, you said he's not your attorney. You haven't talked to him. Then we continue to have a conversation. At no point did you ever say, hey, I want Mr. Melnick here. Hey, put Mr. Melnick on the phone. Lil Woody said, you didn't make me feel like I needed him. Miss Hilton said, but if you needed him, we would have said, if you would have needed Mr. Melnick, we would have said to you, okay, just call him. So, I mean, that is our position. Yeah, so you can just give somebody immunity without their attorney? Oh, maybe I'm missing something. This is wild. We don't want you in jail. All right? We just want you to be able to purge yourself by testifying. Whatever your truth is, what your truth is. But you've got to answer the questions. We believe that your truth, whatever your truth is what your truth is. We know what you said before. I don't know what you're going to say on the stand, but what we know is pleading the fifth is going to keep you in custody. That's what I know. Now, how you answer your questions is how you answer your questions. All right, so she's giving him a little bit of an out here. She's saying, hey, if you want to say, I don't recall. If you want to say, what you mean? If you want to say, huh? What? Then that's answering the question. All right, so just you get a little leeway there, which is nice on her part. She also says to Lil Woody, I know what you said before, and I know what you said later. I mean, I know what you said before, and I don't know what you are going to say on the stand because you and I never went into full details about any of this. But what I don't want is you to be sitting here in custody. All right. And Lil Woody says, well, you did it. You locked me up. Miss Hilton said, I did not. You did it by pleading the fifth. Lil Woody said, you told me before you went to the judge with whatever the thing is called, you went to him with, you told me that I can't. When I'm asked a question, I can say, I don't recall, or I don't know. So she lied again, because she just said we didn't go into full detail about any of it. And she said, I don't know what you're going to say on the stand because we never went into full detail. And then Lil Woody said, well, hold up now. You told me before you went to the judge with whatever the thing was you called and went to him with, which was the immunity. You told me that when I'm asked the question, I could say, I don't recall, or I don't know. And Simone said, hey, we never talked about it. Lies, lies, lies. You told me that if I plead the fifth, I mean something, why would I plead the fifth to something I ain't do? And I said that you don't know what I did and what I ain't do. And then you said, and then you was like something. And then y'all asked for this immunity. And I was like, it was something. And then Thursday or Friday came. And then y'all go tell me, oh, we went to the judge with this. So you got to testify. If you don't testify, the judge gonna lock you up. Dang. Wow. Miss Hilton said, right. But that was based upon what you said, I'm guessing. Lil Woody said, but I told y'all that. She said, no, you didn't. Lil Woody said, you said, why would I plead the fifth to something I didn't do? And I said, you don't know what happened. ADA Hilton said, and I said, I don't know what happened. Only you know. Only you know and them know. I said, but you never said I am pleading the fifth. Oh, Lawyer Reed's man is strong with this one. You said, what if I do this? What if I do this? What if I do this? Lil Woody said, I told you. I said, I'm going to plead the fifth. You said, why would you plead the fifth to something that you didn't do? And Lil Woody is 100% correct. He said this several times. And she even repeated it. And Lil Woody's saying, I told you I'm going to plead the fifth. And she said, why would you do that? So Kayla, Miss Bumpus says, so if you didn't have immunity prior to, is that what you're saying? That you feel like something he didn't have immunity prior to? Lil Woody says, immunity came Friday, right when I went to jail. That can't be right. That can't be right. He would have had to have immunity before he was held in contempt. So he's probably confused there. Miss Hilton says the immunity only came after Mr. Melnick something. And Miss Kayla says, hold on. Miss Hilton says the immunity came after Mr. Melnick sent us the email saying, my client is pleading the fifth. That was on Thursday evening at 6. I apologize, y'all. I'm working on. I need to get some cough drops. So I'm confused about this whole story. So if it was his client and they were saying they didn't know that he was his client, but then somewhere between Thursday evening and Friday morning, Melnick said that he was going to drop him if he decides to testify. And then they get into Miss Hilton gets into a car with Lil Woody and says, hey, here's what's about to happen. We need you to testify. If you testify, then you're going to be fine. But didn't she say, if we go back, didn't she say she didn't even know that he had representation? What is going on here? hold on. Let's go. Where was this? He said, Lil Woody said, I was pleading the fifth. She said, no, you didn't tell me that. Okay, so he didn't tell her that, but Melnick told her that. No, you didn't. We told you. I told you my concerns. She said, whatever your concerns are. Lil Woody said, so I didn't tell you lied to them situation. You said you were a liar. That's what you said. You said you were a liar. Miss Kayla says, was this recorded? She said, no. Kayla said, and did you ever say that Melnick was his attorney? And did he ever say that Melnick was his attorney? Miss Hilton said, no. This week, when we met you in the car Friday, we asked you, is Mr. Melnick your attorney? You said he is not my attorney. I haven't even talked to him. So she has an email saying my client is going to plead the fifth. And then Lil Woody says, no, I never said he's not my attorney. I said I haven't talked to him. What is going on here? So now this is wild, man. All right, I'm gonna keep reading. Shout out to Tanya. She says, keep going. I'm gonna keep going. Lil Woody says, immunity came Friday night when I went to jail. Miss Hilton says the immunity came only after Mr. Melnick something. She goes on to repeat it. And Miss Butler says, hold on. And Miss Hilton says the immunity came after Mr. Melnick sent an email saying my client is pleading the fifth. That was on Thursday evening at 6. Miss Bumper says, okay. Miss Hilton says, so after that, that was an empathetic, he is pleading the fifth. Says Kayla. We came and we got this sign. I guess she's referring to the immunity. And Miss Bumper says, And then Miss Hilton says, and then Friday morning came. And Miss Bumper says, okay. And Miss Hilton says, so between Friday evening, Mr. Melnick reached out to us, said he represents him. He's pleading the fifth.
What?
How? Miss Hilton, the immunity came after Mr. Melnick sent us an email. My client is pleading the fifth. That was on Thursday evening at 6. Miss Hilton, so between Friday evening, Mr. Melnick reached out to us and he responded, he's pleading the fifth. I'm so confused. We'll keep reading. Kayla says, okay. And when was the last time you talked to him before Mr. Melnick got involved? Miss Hilton says, we talked to him earlier that day on Thursday. Kayla says, okay. And then Hal speaks inaudibly to Lil Woody. He called me. Lil Woody said, Mr. Melnick called him. And Kayla says, okay, I was just trying to get the timeline. This timeline is wild. Miss Hilton says, sure, right. So we have been talking since last Friday. So I met with Lil Woody last Friday. I think out in the neighborhood. Then he came on Tuesday for court. We talked briefly on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday he came. Lil Woody said Thursday. She said, no, I think he only came 2 days. So it had to be Wednesday and Thursday he came. It wasn't Tuesday. It was Wednesday and Thursday he came. And then Thursday, once he left, is when Mr. Melnick reached out to us and said, my client is pleading the fifth. At that point is when we went the next morning and got the immunity motion. So they knew he was going to plead the fifth. So they were basically trying to get him to have immunity, so he couldn't plead the fifth. Wow. And then we spoke on Friday morning. I handed Lil Woody this agreement and let him know he has immunity and that anything he says we can't use. And then Mr. Melnick came, and then we had court. Kayla said, so you're pretty much saying you didn't ask for this? She's talking to Lil Woody. Lil Woody says, I didn't. Miss Hilton says, but we gave it. He doesn't have to ask for it. Miss Bumper says, I know. I mean, he's just saying he wanted to plead the fifth. He didn't want to talk at all. Miss Hilton said, right. He doesn't have to ask for it, but to alleviate whatever his concerns are, we gave him immunity. He didn't have to ask for it. Wow. And then Miss Bumpus says, so if he would have had this something, I'm just saying this so we can understand. I'm walking him through. Miss Hilton says, Miss Bumpus says, would he still have had to testify, or would he have been able to plead the fifth? That's what he's saying. Miss Hilton says, if he did not have immunity, Miss Bumpus says, yes, he could plead the fifth. They took that right away from him. Oh, this has got to be one of the craziest things I've ever heard. Lil Woody said, that's what I'm saying. Kayla says, that's what he's trying to say. He's trying to say he didn't ask for this. Miss Hilton says, but he doesn't have to ask for it. Too bad. We just took away your right to plead the fifth. That's why we gave it to him, because that's on us. So now that we have given it to him, it's an order. He can still choose if he chooses, I guess, if this is the road he wants to take, and then he'll just stay in custody until his trial is over. Oh, y'all can see why Woody is so heated at this prosecution. They're doing him so dirty, man. Wow. And when we say the trial is over, every last defendant has been tried. Not just the 6, the other ones too. Lil Woody, I done did longer time. Hey, look at Woody, get him, man. Oh my gosh. Miss Hilton says, all right, Lil Woody, I'm telling you that you are literally immune from prosecution from anything else you may say. That's it. Well, kinda, if they don't find any more independent evidence, right? Whatever that means. That's that. So the choice is always up to you, but we wanted to put on the record, the state does not want you in custody. What the state would like from you, would like you to do is to purge yourself from. What does purge yourself mean? Ms. Hilton says, meaning that you are no longer in custody. And the way you purge yourself is to testify. That is kind of how it happens. And that is what the state wants you to do. We don't want you in custody. I can't say that any other different way, but we don't want you in custody. The only thing that's holding you is you refusing to testify. Judge Glanfield said, so do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? Any other questions? Basically, if you invoke the fifth, Lil Woody says, I don't trust y'all. I know what he said. I don't trust y'all. I don't know what's going on. I don't trust nobody. I trust her word, talking about Kayla, I'm sure, but I don't know what's going on, Your Honor. Miss Hilton said, this is your insurance. I don't know if you want to break that down to him. Kayla says, well, he doesn't want that. The court says, Judge Glanville says, but he's been given it. See, that's the challenge, Mr. Copeland, is that if they didn't give you immunity, you could invoke your Fifth Amendment privilege. But what the state decided is they said your testimony is worth more to them at this point in time, and they really want to know what you have to say. So they have made a decision, I'm guessing, from the state's perspective. They have made a decision to give you immunity so you no longer can invoke your Fifth Amendment. privilege. You have to testify. So the problem is, we're gonna get Javi up here too at some point. The problem I'm seeing with this, and again, y'all, I am not a legal professional. I'm just looking at this the same way you guys are. So what it seems like is that Little Woody had some other things, some other issues he had going on with the law. And instead of them either, in this case, pressing charges or holding him accountable or making him another defendant, they said, hey, let's just take this guy, give him immunity, and make him testify. Again, that's just me looking at it at face value as a layman. I'm going to do some more research and find that out for sure, and we'll follow up with it in a later video. But this just sounds so dirty. And shout out to Tanya. She said, I called my brother. He's a lawyer. He said they forced it, but it's legal. Let's keep going. This part is, when it comes to the legal system, if you guys look at some of the laws in your own county, and I think it would surprise you. But just hearing Judge Glanville say this, but what the state decided is they said your testimony is worth more to them at this point in time, and they really want to know what you have to say. So they made a decision from the state's perspective. They made a decision to give you immunity, so you no longer can invoke your Fifth Amendment privilege. You have to testify. So that's the difference in this particular scenario, is that they have taken away, well, you can still invoke your Fifth Amendment privilege. I think what they say is they are taking away your rights. Well, you can still invoke your Fifth Amendment privilege. You still can do that. But the consequence of invoking it is you will just remain in custody. So if you testify, you get out of custody, and you stay out of custody until you are done. Y'all, can y'all believe this? I mean, that's crazy. This is the way the system's set up. And Lil Woody says, and then if I don't testify, I have to stay in until when? Judge Glanville says until the trial is over, until all the defendants have been heard. I think is what he said. I've got these 6 that we have right now, and then there's another 6. Ms. Hilton said, no, there's another 12. Judge Glanville says there's another 12 or thereabouts that are still outstanding in various forms or another. Now, I have to give Judge Glanville a little bit of credit here. Most of the information we had heard and saw in some of the other affidavits and some of the other motions, it was really making him look like the bad guy and more of the aggressor in this situation. But I mean, clearly he has a lot of responsibility. He never should have called Lil Woody into his chambers, and he really shouldn't have had this meeting in the first place. But it seems like ADA Hilton is really the one that is trying to get Lil Woody on this one. It's crazy. Oh man. Judge Glanville says there's another 12 or thereabouts that are still outstanding in various forms or another. Lil Woody said, can I speak with her for a second? Talking about Kayla. And he says, yeah, sure. So Judge Glanville and everybody, they leave the chambers for 16 minutes. Lil Woody's, okay, so they all go back. Lil Woody says, my question is, I can ask you a question? Judge Glanville says, sure you can. Lil Woody says, so my question is, what I was just asking her was, if you ask me a question and you feel and I was lying about it, you will lock me back up? Miss Hilton says, no. If you something, so you are saying, you say, I didn't talk to this person. Well, no, I can't talk about that because the judge is in here. Okay. He said, you are asking, for example, if you said before that the sky is blue, and I asked you on the stand, what color is the sky? And you say, I said it was red. I'm going to say, no, back before you said it was blue. Is that what you're trying to ask me? And Kayla says, so explain the independent evidence. Ooh, I knew this was going to come back up. And this is the thing that we talked with Javier and Bailey before. And I asked them specifically, I said, if I'm little Woody, and I'm just thinking of it as a regular person, I don't trust or believe this whole immunity thing, because there's too many loopholes. There's too many places where things can come up and be brought up, and either at a federal level, especially, that they can still go back and look into things if they want to. They just can't base it off of your testimony. But if they find evidence, then they find the evidence. So I'm so glad. Shout out to Kayla. She's an amazing attorney from what we've seen so far. And his concern about the independent evidence, I think, is smart on his part. She says, Kayla says, so explain the independent evidence. If he says he did something and you know he's not telling the truth, what happens? Ms. Hilton says, if he says he did something and he did not do that thing, Kayla says, if you believe he did not, so if you believe that he's lying about it. Ms. Hilton says, then no. If he admits to doing something on the stand, Kayla says, and he did not do that thing, she says, then I'm going to say, is this the first time you're saying that? Kayla says, and you have independent evidence to prove it wasn't him, then what? Ms. Hilton says, then nothing. What do you mean? Like, Kayla says, so then he will be fine? Ms. Hilton says, yes, but Kayla says, excuse me. Kayla says, so you are okay with him if he got on the stand and he said things that weren't true? Ms. Hilton said, no, I want him to tell the truth. What have I always said to you? I want you to tell the truth. I don't know what's going to come out of your mouth. I expect you to tell the truth. If you say something that is inconsistent with what you said before, then I'm going to ask you about the inconsistencies, but I expect you to tell the truth. What you go on the stand and do, I don't know. I don't know what you're going to do. I want you to tell the truth, but I will deal with you not. You're saying something different in the manner that I normally do. Lil Woody says, if I'm saying something different, right? So when the police question me, they done question me every time they lock me up. I don't know how many times that was. I done told them whatever different story I could think of to try and finesse my way out of the situation. I don't recall what I have done told them. Ms. Hilton says, okay, so you can say I don't recall. That is how it works. I don't recall. Ms. Bumpus says, and he can say that to every single question. Ms. Hilton says, I would hope that is not the truth, because I think there are some things you do recall and some things you don't. But the things you do recall, you don't. The things you don't recall, you don't recall. And then I will go through my process of what I do. You can talk to him about what impeachment is. That won't get you locked up. Impeachment will not get you locked up. You can talk to him about what impeachment is. If he says, I don't recall. Lil Woody says, what will get me locked up? Ms. Hilton says, what did I tell you? Oh my gosh, she's getting annoyed. And Lil Woody said, I don't know. It's mad. Oh my gosh. Ms. Hilton says, what you did on Friday, I plead the fifth. If the court instructs you. Lil Woody says, so the thing that gets me locked up is pleading the fifth? Ms. Bumpus says, yes. Ms. Hilton says, the court instructs you. You need to answer the question. You say again, I plead the fifth. Again, that's what's going to get you locked up. But if you answer the question, that will not get you locked up. Lil Woody said, so if you don't want me in jail, why you just don't let me go after the trial is over with? Ms. Hilton said, you are in jail because you're not answering the questions. Yep, that's true. And Judge Glanville says, because you have been given immunity. And Miss Hilton says, because you have been given immunity. She's like a parrot over there. It's Judge Glanville. Disgusting. You're only in jail because you got up there. And I guess you got up there and pleaded the fifth. Lil Woody says, well, what about this? I answer the questions. You take away immunity. I answer the questions and I plead the fifth. Miss Hilton said, no, you can't do that. Lil Woody says, something to question that I feel incriminate me. Miss Hilton says, but then that's something. Lil Woody says, I won't plead the fifth to things that don't incriminate me. And Judge Glanville says the state can still give you immunity. They can give you immunity to whoever they can give immunity to whoever they want. Okay. And they can make that choice. I don't even make that choice. So if they, like I said earlier, they want your testimony, they figure it's something that the jury needs to hear. Oh, I think this is actually something. It's something that the jury needs to hear. What you have to say, good, bad, or indifferent. And what Miss Hilton is telling you is just tell the truth as you know it and let her worry about the rest. I mean, even though you may have said different versions of whatever, that's for impeachment. That's not going to get you in trouble. What will get you in trouble is you not answering the question, I'm guessing, is you invoking your Fifth Amendment privileges, or your Fifth Amendment privilege, because you have been given immunity. Or as Miss Love said this morning, remember, Miss Love said, if you overtly lie about something, like if you tell a bold-faced whopper, oh my gosh, showing your age there, Judge Glanville, then they can indict you on that particular charge. I mean, that particular false statement. Lil Woody says, that's what they're trying to do. Kayla says, excuse me. That is what I was saying. You will be right back here. This is a no-win for Lil Woody. But if you say something that you did not do, like you admit to something you know you did not do, whether you, he says like murder don't have like no statute of limitations, right? Miss Hilton says, but if you didn't do it, I can't charge you with something you didn't do because I don't have any other evidence but you saying. Can y'all imagine being in this situation on Lil Woody's side? I mean, I get, and I'm with y'all. A lot of the issues he's going through, I mean, they're self-inflicted, right? He surrounded himself with certain people. He put himself in this situation, but we're talking here about the justice system, right? And what is supposed to be fair. I just can't imagine having to be in this situation, not knowing the law as well as you should. Definitely not knowing the law as well as a 20-year judge, assistant district attorney, and having to figure all this out. This has to be crazy, especially when you have a family, when you have kids, and you're not knowing what's going to happen. You sign a piece of paper or you go on the stand. What's going to happen in the streets? I mean, this would drive the strongest person crazy. Let's take another quick break here. Let me see what y'all are saying in the comments. And shout out to everybody who's still in here watching. We got over 300 people watching up in here. Oh my God. What are y'all saying? Floyd said, tampering, get your hand out of my pocket. Tanya says, okay, do you believe the liar or the liar? She says, keep reading. And Erica Dickerson's in here. She says, this shows that both Love and Hilton have been lying this entire time. Hilton is just as much a disgusting lawyer as Love. She is just not loud. Henry Resilient said, this is so foul. Yeah, it's sad. And Erica also says, respectfully, my cousin is a lawyer and another is a paralegal, and both said this can be seen as coercion. Absolutely. They are using this as a teaching moment for the family. Yep. Shout out to them. Tanya says, my brother said it's the threat of jail that could be seen as coercion. And the person that doesn't want to go back to jail could feel threatened. I mean, this whole situation is threatening. I mean, he just doesn't know or understand some of the words that they're using. He doesn't know, like, there's so many different things that could happen on the stand. A lot of uncertainty here. It has to be, I mean, terrifying for him, especially if he doesn't want to go back to jail. Yeah, that's crazy. I'm going to try and get through a little more of this. Because we've got the other live stream we're supposed to be doing here in about 8 minutes, but this is so good. This is like a whole movie, y'all, but we're going to keep it going. So what does Miss Hilton say? She says, excuse me. She says, but if you say something that you know you did not do, like you admit to something you know you did not do, whether you something, and he said like murder don't have like no statute of limitations, right? And she says, but if you didn't do it, I can't charge you with something you didn't do because I don't have any other evidence but you saying it. But if I did have some other evidence of you saying it, well, then you're pretty much screwed. Lil Woody says, but y'all don't like something. Miss Bumpus says, you can charge him with false statements and he will be back in jail. That's what I'm trying to say. Miss Hilton says, but if I know that you're lying about that, I don't intend to do that. It doesn't matter. You can still do it. If I know right now he's lying, I know he's lying. I'm not going to charge you because I don't know your reason for doing that. What? But I'm not going to charge you when I know you didn't do what you were trying to say you did. And that could be a part of this. Y'all see why Lil Woody didn't want to testify? I know you didn't do it. But it's up to the judge to do that, says Lil Woody. Miss Hilton says, no, it's up to the state to bring charges. Judge Glanville says, I don't have anything to do with that. Miss Hilton says he has nothing to do with bringing charges. That's up to the state of Georgia. So can Miss Hilton make a phone call to the sheriff's department and say, hey, y'all need to go and see if you can pull the surveillance from that store and see if Lil Woody was there? I don't know. That's just me asking a question as a regular Fulton County resident. Lil Woody says, can I call? Can I talk to my family? I will make my decision right after I hang up the phone. Miss Bumpus says he's saying he hasn't been able to speak to anybody. Miss Hilton says his sister just called us. She something. Lil Woody says, y'all done me wrong. Y'all just hold me in jail. Don't give me no PIN number. Oh, no, nothing. Dang, Miss Hilton says, we have no knowledge. We don't know that you something. And Miss Bumpus says he hasn't been able to do anything, speak to anyone. Lil Woody says the jail system is down. Dang. So he wasn't able to talk to anybody the whole weekend. And y'all still putting people in. They don't care. Miss Hilton said, that's the part I don't know. I know we have been in communication with your sister. Your sister actually texted Mrs. Langsquist. I don't know how to pronounce that. I don't know. To make sure you were okay. We told her we physically laid eyes on you. I'll leave that up to the sheriffs. I don't know. Brief pause. Lil Woody said, so what do you think she's saying? Miss Hilton says, I can tell you right now. Lil Woody says, I'm talking about that locking me back up. Miss Hilton says, we would have to bring charges. There would be no incentive. And Lil Woody said, y'all will. I'm with them. They'll find something. Miss Hilton said, we've already had that discussion. No, you haven't. You've been talking in circles. ADA Hilton. Like, you're giving this man no assurance. To be honest, man, as long as this case, I think Lil Woody should hold out and just plead the fifth again, man. Just like, give it up. But just trash this whole case. This is some BS. I can't believe this meeting. Like, I'm going to do the jail. I know he doesn't want to go back to jail, but This case is probably going to be over before it started, because this is just him being strong-armed into not only testifying, but to not even having his right to plead the fifth is crazy. Look, he says, look what you did to me. You waited until Friday and did this. I done told you every day before Friday came, I was pleading the fifth. She says, no, you didn't. As a matter of fact, our last conversation, Judge Glanville says, Lil Woody, let's see if we can get beyond this. No, he doesn't trust y'all. Okay. Beyond what is your concern? You could have invoked the fifth. No, what? You could have invoked the Fifth Amendment privilege. The state could have turned around and said, stop. Had me something, go ahead and filed the motion and given you immunity. It was going to something, I mean, it was going to something, I mean, they make that decision. They decided to make it on Friday. So even if you would have been more comfortable testifying and invoking your Fifth Amendment privilege, they could decide you as a witness, they want your testimony more than they do invoking your Fifth Amendment privilege. So they give you immunity. So they get to decide what privileges you can and can't have. Is this, I mean, the only thing I could think of is is because he's either one, a convicted felon, and whatever they would essentially charge him with, or two, this is just how the process goes. I don't know. They gave you immunity, so you've got to testify truthfully as to what your knowledge of the particular incident is. I mean, so they were going to something. They could have done that anyway. Even if they put you on the stand, they could have said stop and gone ahead and given you immunity. They could have done that. Yeah, but the reason they probably did is because he would have pleaded the fifth, and if they put him in jail or on probation for whatever he was going to be put back in jail for, he probably would have been out sooner than he would as if he had immunity in this case and had to testify and deal with all the consequences of that. It's just a bad deal overall. Little Woody, so can I get it in some type of writing that if I was to testify that if she feels as in I lied about anything, that they wouldn't be able to lock me back up? Judge Glanville says, let me have that, Miss Bumpus. Miss Bumpus hands document, brief pause. Okay, Lil Woody on page 2 of the order pursuant, blah, blah, blah. However, no testimony given by Lil Woody as required under this order or any information directly or indirectly derived from the testimony of Kenneth Copeland given by Kenneth Copeland as required under order shall be used against said Kenneth Copeland in proceeding or prosecution for a crime or offense concerning which he testifies under this order. All right. Okay, so you testify about some aggravated assault or murder. They can't prosecute you on it because that is what it says in the order. Well, it says that's not what it says. It says they testimony given required by this order or any information directly or indirectly derived from the testimony can be used against him. It doesn't say they can't prosecute him. It's just, why do they keep saying this? It doesn't say they can't prosecute him. It says they can't use the testimony or information directly or indirectly derived from the testimony. So they keep lying to him. Woody, I hope you're watching this, man. Okay, so you testify about some aggravated assault or murder. They can't prosecute you on it because that is what it says in the order. That's not what it says, Judge Glanville. Okay, the only thing that will get you in trouble is this next little paragraph. Lil Woody shall be subject to prosecution or penalty or forfeiture for any perjury, false swearing, or contempt committed in testifying or failing to testify in accordance with this order. However, it is ordered that Lil Woody shall not be required to produce evidence that can be used in any other court in the state. the United States, or any other state. So basically, if you commit perjury, false swearing, or contempt committed in testifying, that means if you just invoke your Fifth Amendment privilege or failing to testify, you say, I'm not going to testify. All right. So the only two things you can kind of get in trouble for are perjury and false swearing, as long as you tell the truth. Now, as Miss Hilton and Miss Bumpus said earlier, you have told, or you may have told or been asked about situations over and over again. They may have changed. What the state is asking you is to tell the version that really is the truth. If they want to impeach you, they can do that. Or if the other side wants to impeach you, they can do that. You won't get in trouble for that. You said, I will. The court said, you will not. You will not. Impeachment is not perjury or false swearing. Okay. Lil Woody said, but she said, I can purge myself. Miss Hill said, no. We're saying two different things. Sorry. Perjury is if you get on the stand and you say just a bold-faced lie, just something that is wrong. Say you say, I did something, and all the other times you said, I have not done it. And really, while it's still perjury, it's really just an inconsistent statement. Like if you get on the stand and say, I did X, but in 2015, you said, I never did X. That is what I'm going to impeach. I'm going to impeach you on everything you said in 2015, meaning I'm going to say, okay, today you said X, but in 2015, and Lieutenant Dean enters the chambers. Lieutenant Dean, we have a security issue. We need to stop for a minute. Uh-oh. If we can stop for a second, please. Judge Glanville and Lieutenant Dean exited the chambers. Judge Glanville returned to the chambers 2 minutes later. Miss Hilton said, if you don't know what was told to you on Friday, I have no reason to want you in prison. You have spent enough time in prison for YSL, period. So why would I want that for you? That doesn't make sense. I said it to you before, and I will say it to you again in front of all these people. It makes no sense. Lil Woody said, you just saying I'm going to have to stay in jail until the last day, probably. Ms. Hilton says, if you don't testify, get this part through your head. If you don't testify, that is the only thing that is holding you. That is literally the only thing holding you right now, is the fact that you keep saying, I'm not going to testify. Well, you haven't said it today. I'm not testifying. I plead the fifth. If you get up there and I want you to tell the truth. Like I said before, if you don't recall certain things, you can just say that you don't recall. That's fine. I want you to tell the truth. I don't expect you to remember every single detail of 2015. I just don't. No one here does. All right. But what I do expect for you to do is answer questions so we can get through it, so you can go home, so you can be with your baby for her birth. Oh man, don't do that. See these dogs deliver their babies, go talk to your nephews and do all these other things. He said, how you know about my dogs? Because you told me. Lil Woody said, okay. Miss Bumpus said, what's wrong? Lil Woody said, I'm stressing at another level. Like Miss Bumpus says, I mean, I'm saying that's dirty, man. That's nasty work. Lil Woody said, I'm weak, man. I'm not playing. I'm dead serious, man. I'm like, Miss Hilton says, this is what our position is. We don't want him in custody. We want him to tell the truth. We want him to testify. That's what will get him out of jail. And, you have to make something. So I'll look it up shortly, but I want to see if there's anything Lil Woody can do to just not have immunity. I highly doubt it, but we'll have to look up and see. Miss Bumpus says, if he decides in 2 weeks he wants to testify, then what? Miss Hilton says, if he wants to stay in jail for 2 weeks, then that's on him, probably is what she said. I don't know why you would want to stay in jail for 2 weeks. I have no idea. Miss Bumpus said he just feels like he's under a lot of pressure right this second. Mr. Lil Woody says, even at the jail, they're just something. You can't give me house arrest. Miss Hilton says, no. You can go home by taking the stand and testifying. That's what you can do, or something like that. And Judge Glanville says, and come back tomorrow. Miss Hilton said, there's no something. We keep on saying yet, but there's no crime. We keep on saying yet. I didn't know who is telling you about a crime. There is no crime. You have done nothing wrong except for not getting on the stand, is probably what she said. Lil Woody said, so why am I in jail then? Ms. Hilton, because you aren't testifying. Lil Woody says, but that ain't nothing wrong. It's not a crime. Ms. Hilton said, it's not a crime, but you're in civil contempt. Judge Glanville said two things. Because you invoked your privilege after you have been given immunity, that is why you are in custody, because you get out by testifying. You testify, you get out. That's why I was going to bring you something. Why I brought you here earlier. Why I brought you here earlier today, to just inquire about that. You can remain you can remain and hold your position of invoking the fifth or not testifying, but you go back to prison. You go back to jail because that's something. Mr. Cope or Lil Woody says, you can't sentence me. Kayla says there's no sentence. Judge Glanville says there's no sentence. The contempt is compliance. They want your testimony. That is all they want, whether whatever that may be. Lil Woody says, I don't know what that is, Your Honor. Ms. Hilton says, so listen, you are in jail for failing to testify. It's pretty straightforward. Failing to testify, says Judge Glanville. This is so weird how they're going back and forth. Anyway, Ms. Hilton says, not for anything else. There is no crime. You ain't done nothing wrong. I don't know if there are people telling you that we are going to charge you with nothing. We are not charging you. The state charges you. There is nothing we are charging you with. You are only in custody because you have decided not to testify. That's it. Once you decide to testify, you'll be set free probably. Remember that word you were talking to me about, purge? Says Lil Woody. Judge Glanville says, okay, you can purge right now. Purge yourself and get out of jail by testifying. I can purge and get out of jail, says Lil Woody. Judge Glanville says, yes, by testifying. And Ms. Hilton says, not perjury. Oh my gosh. They're just going back and forth in a circle. And this is different. I'm going to skip this because this is obnoxious. All right. Ms. Hilton said, it's not that. It's not that something. What you are saying is not perjury. What you're saying is what we call a prior inconsistent statement. Your example that you gave me, what if you did something and you didn't do it, and you said before you didn't do it, that's not perjury. That is a prior inconsistent statement. Kayla says, you've got to make a decision. So if he starts testifying today, he's going to go home today. Ms. Hilton said he should, so as long as he remains. But if you get up there and you be like, if you get up to testifying and then we get into it and you start saying, I plead the fifth, we're going to be back here again. Kayla says, but if he says he don't recall to everything, he'll be okay. Ms. Hilton says, I'm not advising that, but as long as he answers the question, that's fine. So as long as he's something. Though what he says, I did these crimes. I'm telling you that. Hold on. What? What? I did these crimes. I'm telling you that. Miss Hilton says, okay, I don't know what you're talking about, but Miss Bumpin says, wait, are you saying you want to get up there on the stand and say something? Lil Woody. Not saying anything. Miss Bumpin says, did we find out if he could talk to his family or no? Brief pause. Miss Hilton. Miss Hilton says, I mean, if it's okay, we got the sister's number. Lil Woody said, as my attorney, you got a something. Miss Hilton said, let me something. If y'all want to talk, let me go somewhere where I can't hear you. The judge is over there, so just speak low so he doesn't hear you. The judge says, hold on. All right. So they all get up out of there and they're gone for almost over 30 minutes. Wow. Judge Glanville comes back in. This is crazy. Lil Woody said they knew he was about to get up there and say he did it. Wow, man. Judge Glanville says, okay, all right. Lil Woody, have you had an opportunity to talk with Miss Bumpus, your lawyer, and Miss Hilton, the state's counsel? What? Miss Hilton's the state's counsel now, huh? Interesting. We don't leave that one alone. Have you got any other questions? Lil Woody says, no, Your Honor. And then Judge Glanville says, is it your desire to give a testimony? Lil Woody says, yes, sir. And then Judge Glanville says, okay, all right then. Do you all have some clothes for him? Miss Hilton says, I don't know. Let me go take a look. What size are you? Lil Woody says, I can't hear you. Miss Hilton says, what size are you? And he says, little.
Hey, yo.
Oh my gosh. All right. And then they're going back and forth about clothes. Lil Woody doing Lil Woody things. Chess, what are you? What size are you? Small or medium? Lil Woody says small or medium. Judge Glanville says they're going to try and get you some clothes so you don't have to testify wearing the jail uniform. Okay. Lil Woody said, y'all don't want me to show people how y'all did me? Oh, get him, Woody. Judge Glanville said, look here now. No, Miss Hilton said, if we can't find clothes, then you may have to until tomorrow. Lil Woody said, I prefer to go in like this. I understand what your preference is, says ADA Hilton. Lil Woody says, nah, don't hide it. Kayla says, can you make him put on clothes? Miss Hilton says, nope. Lil Woody says, I want to go in there just like this. Oh man. Miss Hilton says, fine with me. Judge Glanville says, all right, okay. Lil Woody, you ain't gonna try and lock me back up for this. Oh man, that sucks, man. I feel bad for Lil Woody. I'm not gonna lie. Miss Hilton, so long as you testify, we will get an order to get you released today, says Miss Bumpus. Judge Glanville, whose copy is this? Miss Hilton, we've got to make sure you come back now. I want to be real clear. Lil Woody says, when have I ever ran? Miss Hilton said, you have not. That's the only thing, you have not. Glanville says, whose copy is this? Miss Hilton says, that was ours. Whose copy? Okay. Miss Hilton, do you still have it? Okay, good. And then the proceedings concluded 2 hours and 30 minutes later. And that's it, y'all. I can't believe we made it through the whole thing. Appreciate y'all bearing with me on this one. There's a lot there. There's a lot there, a lot that's definitely going to be brought up by the defense. And if this continues to go forward, and if there isn't a mistrial, which at this point, just as a layman and as someone who's been at a very surface level involved in the legal system here in Fulton County, I don't see how it possibly could. But if it continues to go forward, this is a lot of things that took place in this conversation are going to be brought up. I guarantee. Especially with Lil Woody saying, I did these crimes. Like, what? What is he talking about? Judge Glanville still putting a little bit of pressure on him. You got ADA Hilton lying. Miss Love lying. Kayla being put in a terrible position. I mean, this is absolutely amazing. But y'all let me know what you think. Again, appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for liking the video too. We almost got 100 likes in here. It's dirty, man. Erica said he brought up the children. Yep, he sure did. Wave Lori said, free thug. What's good at ClassE? Shout out to Wave Lori. Mixed Chick Samantha says it sounds like a trap to me. Absolutely. I believe it only says he has state immunity, not federal. It's a bunch of BS. If I were Woody, I wouldn't trust it either. Henry Resilient said they threw the birthday on him. It's disgusting. Tanya said his lawyer stopped him from saying what it was. Because you knew he was about to say he did something. Kimberly Walker is in here, says unbelievable. I agree. And that says the same thing. Big D writes up in here. What's up, man? And shout out to, what is it? Filt Garth for subscribing. Appreciate you. Welcome over to this side, man. All right, we're gonna get up out of here. We'll be back tomorrow. We're gonna talk about this case being put on hold because everything that's going on with Judge Glanville and Judge Glinda, which we'll get into a little bit later, is at a crazy point right now because there's so much going on with this transcript being released, with the Supreme Court being involved, and with now this new writ of mandamus being sent to Superior Court, that they're just shutting everything down. So we'll be back talking about tomorrow. Y'all make sure you tune in at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any time we go live or drop a new video. All right, we're going to go over to our next live stream on the BandLab Engineer channel. Thank y'all again for watching. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and stay tuned because we're going to have a lot more news for you. All right, keep growing, keep pushing, keep it classy. We go. Peace.
Since everything starts with self, let me hold this mirror up and take a look at myself. Before I judge you, I gotta check myself. And I come to find out that that's good for my health, right? Change your mind and watch the whole body follow. So you won't hear me talking about I'm hitting you with hollows. I can't do it, got plans for tomorrow. And I ain't trying to bring my seeds no type of sorrow. Wait, cause fake rappers do fake-ish. I mean, most of basic get replaced quick. I'll never sacrifice my soul. Truth is, so I might never get 1 million records sold. But that's cool, cause I'm good with the creator. He nurtured my thoughts, so I present you with verbal flavor. You never listen to what no haters say. We pray for them, but we gon' move it this way. We moving forward, y'all.
We can do anything. We can't be worried about what they say.